Train the muscles, not the joints. So welcome back to Natural Bodybuilding, and today I'm going to go to the butcher shop again and go to the gym. Somebody on Patreon just asked me a question, so I'm going to answer this question for them. They asked about what do you do when you have imbalances in the body. So say you have one arm that's slightly bigger than the other, or a leg or something like that. And what do bodybuilders do in that circumstance? Is there some sort of general protocol for that? Now I'll talk to you about what my experience is with this. First of all, you're always going to have an imbalance when it comes down to your arms, your legs, your chest, your back. It's always going to be like that. There's always going to be a little bit of an imbalance. Even if other people can't notice it, there's always going to be a little bit of an imbalance, right? So it's not something to really worry about so much. But one way that you can offset some of these imbalances is to do unilateral training, which means you train one leg at a time or one arm at a time once in a while. You throw this into your workouts as well. So that way you're making sure that, say you're lifting a barbell with both arms, you're making sure that one arm isn't actually working more than the other. So I like walking lunges. I love these. Now these lunges are just unbelievable because you are forced to balance, you're forced to find your set point, your groove and everything, and push evenly with one leg and the other because you're forcing all the weight on that one front leg. That's where all the tension is. So you have to basically make sure that you're pushing evenly in that case. So the same thing is with bicep curls. If you're doing one arm at a time with dumbbells, you're making sure that each arm is actually pulling its weight, so to speak. That was a pretty clever joke. That was pretty good actually. Let me just think about how the genius of that joke was. Pulling its weight. Oh yeah. So anyway, I'm going to take you to the gym, but that's basically what I do. And I'm going to show you a couple clips here of different exercises that I use once in a while. Maybe not. You know what? Let's go get a coffee first. We'll talk about this crap later. We'll go to the gym and I'll see you there. So one thing I found with doing one side at a time, if you really want to help strengthen out those imbalances and stuff, it's helpful to do balance type exercises. So that's why I like the walking lunge or the one-legged squat. And you know, the leg press isn't a lot of balancing, but doing one leg at a time, there's a tiny bit of that stabilization going on. But yeah, mostly the free weight type stuff I think is better for that. But yeah, it's up to you, just experiment. One side at a time really helps balance out those imbalances. I'll see you later. Okay, so yeah, so one of the things I find also that helps is if you actually train one leg at a time or one arm at a time, but you train the weak side first. So you do that for a number of months. Whenever you do the unilateral training, you decide to train one leg first or one arm first, and that usually will bring something up. So, you know, one of my experiences in that area was I had a bad or severe herniation of a disc when I was 18 years old from deadlifting wrong. You know, that's how I learned half the stuff that I teach you guys, is that I did a lot of things wrong. And basically what I did was I noticed that my left butt or glute was not responding. Like when I'd be squatting, after I started to rehabilitate my lower back from doing a lot of reverse extensions on a Swiss ball and all that kind of stuff, I started to do a lot of squats. And the thing is, I noticed that my right quad and my left quad was fine, but my left butt cheek wasn't getting any sort of nerve supply. It was like my right butt was taking over, my right glute. So I had to basically start doing one-legged squats and one-legged lunges on a Smith machine and everything, just to start to get that mind-muscle connection happening there again. So I know a big part of it was there was an impingement of some sort on the nerve, but at the same time it did help for me to find that balance with that one leg as opposed to letting the strong leg always take over. So yeah, this is a strategy that you can incorporate in your training. So here I am at the town butcher, and I'm going to get my chicken breast there and get a little bit of red meat. I've been cutting back on the red meat lately. I've been doing more chicken breast and a little bit of fish here and there. On my higher fat days, I'll do cod livers and stuff. But what I'm experimenting with right now is a lower fat diet, lots of brown rice and chicken. Standard meal, several times a day, about 2 cups of cooked rice. About 2 cups of cooked rice probably, and then a chicken breast. So, and a little bit of that peanut sauce from the Saigon seasoning, which is pretty good. And basically a good carbohydrate and a good protein, a good low-fat protein for several times a day, like 4 or 5 meals a day, about 5 actually. And I'm finding I feel really good with that. I've always functioned better with lower fat when it comes down to energy and actually getting a pump and fullness. It's just that sometimes, especially after the 1998 competition, which I will talk about, I got food poisoning and I found that my body responded different to carbs. So I noticed that I retain water and stuff. But my body does perform best in the gym when I do have a good amount of low glycemic carbs along with protein. All right, so let's go in here. See, those are those sauces that I get, the Saigon sauces. Pretty good. Could I get 8 more chicken breasts? Yeah, sorry about that. The red meat here, some of it is grass-fed and stuff like that, so I've been eating some of that. I prefer grass-fed red meat if I'm going to have red meat, like I've said before. So, but as far as my carb sources, I'm also having grits as well as like this 5-grain type of oatmeal / grit combination. So tonight I'm going to do some chest and some back and some biceps. So we'll see what it evolves into. But I'm going to do multiple sets for chest, multiple sets for back, probably some bent over rows or seated row. Probably a seated row because I don't have my wrist straps with me, and I can do some heavy bent over rows at my house. So sometimes I try to get those extra different movements that I can't get in at home at the gym. So I'll probably take advantage of that tonight just by doing some seated rows. So yeah, let's go in, let's train, let's do this. I don't think I'm going to do one arm movements, just so you know. I know our subject today is on one arm movements and stuff, but I may experiment around. We'll see. We'll see. Stay tuned, man. I'm at least going to burn a few people. I'm sure somebody's going to get burned tonight. I don't know who, but there's a lot of people in there. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to go to the gym.
3 mochas have you had since 5 p.m.?
I kind of like this. I kind of like the service. I think this is what needs to happen. I need the doorman, right?
Is that the 3rd mocha?
Well, this is the first one.
Well, am I on camera right now? Awesome.
No, second actually. I'm on a different one. Yeah. So Kyle, you're making fun of Jason because his birthday's coming up?
Yes, big 5-0.
Yeah, big 5-0, you bastard. It's not fun.
Get in there. Get in there.
You're not nice. I tell you, you're not nice. So much jealousy and hate. I don't get it. Welcome to the workout portion of this video. Now that I got all the other things out of the way, and of course I got sufficiently burned right in the beginning of the video. I didn't expect that. I was expecting to do the burning today. I was expecting to get some people, but yeah, Kyle got me right away. Well played, Kyle. Okay, fine, you got me this time, but I'll get you again. And remember, it's never really a good thing to make fun of the guy that's doing all the editing, just so you know. So don't worry, I will have my revenge. Don't worry, guys. He hasn't got the better of me. Maybe today, but not permanently. I guarantee you, not permanently. What I'm doing is some calves here. I'm just doing some light calves. I did some heavy calves yesterday on the leg press machine, so I'm just doing some lighter ones and just getting some blood in there and just getting a pump while I'm waiting for that bench press. I like to do not full range on calves. Like some people, they like to stretch all the way down, like super far, but then you start to notice that the stress starts to transfer to the Achilles tendon, and you do not want that. So each person's going to be different in this, just like any other movement, but you want to make sure that that stress is in the belly of the calf, not in the tendon attachment, because that Achilles tendon can be quite a sensitive sort of thing. So the bottom line is that I squeeze up not as high as I can, but I squeeze up to a point where it feels like normal contraction. So I'd like to get those shorter, faster reps in most cases. I don't like to squeeze up too far because it seems like I'm not getting extra squeeze in the calf. I don't know, it's hard for me to explain, but I find that it's the ideal range for me anyway. I used to be Kyle's hero. Just, you know, I used to be his hero. Yeah, he used to like me, and then I fell from grace real fast. As soon as he got familiar, that was it. I was done. Yeah, never meet your heroes. That's what they say, you know. I'm gonna change it. Never meet your fans. Never meet your fans. He used to be excited. Now it's like he's been grumpy with me. I'm like, wow, I'm not his favorite anymore. So I'm starting off with 295 after doing a few warm-ups, of course. I do a warm-up with a plate and then a warm-up with 225, and then I'm going right to 295 for reps. Now, I'm not doing quite as narrow of a grip as I was doing before. I'm doing more of a medium grip now, not a narrower grip like I was doing before. So I find that this is keeping that stress on the chest. And again, I like to change things up all the time just to double check, triple check, see where I'm feeling things and where I'm getting the most amount of results, right? So I felt like I needed to widen up the grip a little bit to keep that tension on the pec and a little bit less on the tricep. And at the same time, I'm noticing that I'm feeling this groove much better since I started doing higher volume. My strength hasn't necessarily gone up, but my strength endurance has. So I'm doing higher volume with bench. So I'll do about 10 sets of bench. So I'll do about 4, 5, maybe 6 sets of 295, and then I will work my way back down to 225 and then do 3, 4, 5 sets of 225. It all depends on how I feel, but usually it averages out to about 10 sets of bench press for a workout.
Last set of heavy, then I'm gonna go lighter and warp out.
Now, even though I got most of my muscle mass from low volume workouts, not workouts like this, like most of my workouts were 3 to 5 sets most of the time per body part, you know, once every 2 days or something like that. Right now, I've noticed that I went heavier for a period of time. I went super frequent for a period of time, and now it's time for me to increase the amount of sets and volume just to kind of push the body a little bit.
Gotta go light.
And I'm noticing actually that I'm getting more back strength and more leg strength from this, even though my bench press hasn't come up yet. So it has been working. So sometimes you just got to shock the body in a different way than you're used to doing. And it may produce an unexpected result in different muscle fibers than you're used to training, right? So sometimes, you know, the age old trick is just switch things up and you might get some gains from it. Now, the reason why I'm continuing the workout and doing lighter weight after doing the heavy weight is that I've already fatigued the fast twitch fibers, and now I'm trying to go after those slow twitch fibers, the fibers that are recruited from more endurance type activity. So I'm trying to get as many different types of fibers as I can in this one movement, of course. Now, there's other ways to do this. You can hit the muscle from different angles, and that's always a good strategy as well. But because I'm working in a pretty frequent program, you know, I train the chest every 2 days. I like to stick to one main exercise in most cases and just beat the muscle to death. So that's what's really given me enthusiasm right now. So you might find a different strategy gives you enthusiasm, but sometimes I'll just do this. I'll find what motivates me, and then that's what I'll stick to. Now, this is something I wouldn't recommend doing after you fatigue the chest. You know, a stabilizer movement like this on the rings. I haven't done it for a long time, but I just wanted to kind of mess around. So I did a few sets of dips after my bench press workout just to help with the stability of the shoulders and help balance everything out in there. And as you can see, it works the chest quite well. So I just wanted to kind of get a different angle just for fun. So here I am just warming up with some super lightweight on the seated row. I did decide to do seated rows, not bent over rows. And the thing is with the bar, I'm doing a little bit of a wider grip where the hands are facing each other. So semi-supinated grip, I guess you could say. And this bar was just already attached. And sometimes I'm lazy like that. I'll just use whatever bar is on the machine. And this forces me to vary up the angles, vary up the movements and everything. So the one thing about doing a little bit of a wider grip in a row is that it will bring in some of the trap. It'll bring in those muscles between the shoulder blades a little bit more because it forces protraction of the shoulders, which means the shoulders come forward. Now here I'm just working on the sweet spot for the lat right here, but you'll see later on that I start to actually lean forward more, and that will bring in a little bit more of those rhomboids, more of those traps, and sometimes you will get a different type of stretch on the lat, right? So again, it's always about which is the most efficient way to hit the muscle you want to hit. So sometimes when you stretch forward, because you start to bring in more delt and more bicep, even though you're getting a little bit more stretch in the lat, you're not necessarily getting more lat development from it. And that's where some people make the mistake. They assume that a greater range is automatically going to make sure that muscle that they want to hit is going to hit failure just because it's getting a little bit of a better stretch. So like I said, if your delt is hitting failure first, if your biceps hitting failure first, that means those muscle groups are going to actually grow faster than the other group that is also involved in the movement because it's not hitting failure first. So this is why I cater the ranges of motion like I do, is because I've went through intense experiments for decades on this sort of thing. And I noticed that when I did fuller ranges, in some cases with back, it wasn't necessarily causing my back to fatigue, it was causing my biceps to fatigue. So I was getting these awesome looking biceps, but my back was pretty much non-existent at one time. I know, hard to believe, right? But my back was one of my weakest muscle groups at one point in my career, and it was way before I started competing, I guess. But once I started to make the leaps of logic that I've made and that I'm talking to you guys about, I started to actually grow my back for the first time ever, right? So, you know, the standard place you see this all the time on the internet is the chin up. People are doing chin ups, they're coming all the way up and then they're locking out at the bottom, and then they're like getting these great looking biceps, but their back looks like it just doesn't even exist. So this is the thing, you got to be more strategic with the way you train, and that's exactly why I train the way I do. So as you can see, my elbows are a little bit flared out, just a tiny bit, not a lot, but just a tiny bit, because I'm still trying to bring in those lats as much as I can. So you want to keep the elbows at the side if you want to bring the lats in. So most of you advanced guys know this, but once you start to bring the elbows up more towards the ears, you will bring in more rear delt and more upper trap. So a lot of times people underestimate how much of their back workouts they're doing with the flared elbows. I mean, their elbows are up by their ears and they're wondering why they're not really getting lat development. They're not getting the lower lat development. Their lat spread looks like crap, but their upper traps look pretty good. Well, that's the reason why. Most of the time they're actually training their rear delts and their upper back, meaning the traps, and they're also training their biceps, but they're not necessarily pulling with the lats, right? So you want to kind of do different angles. You want to pull with the elbows down, pull with the elbows up. You want to develop that back from different angles. You don't want to just stick to one angle. So that's why I don't really worry about changing the bars that I use. Sometimes if I use a triangle bar, or I use a wider bar, or I use a reverse grip, like I don't mind changing it up, because you always want to hit those different areas of the back.
shot here and be on Jason's next video. And then you, like me, could be a C movie star.
So I moved from back over to doing some cable curls. So I like to feel the cable curls. Sometimes I'll do them slow, sometimes I'll do them fast, but it's really just about feeling it all the way through the bicep, through the full range. So what I mean by full range, and you've seen this in my last video if you did watch that, was that I don't straighten the arms all the way down, because I find when I straighten the arms all the way down, then the tension leaves the bicep brachii, goes over to the forearm, the brachialis, as well as transfers to the shoulder, because now the shoulder has to be stabilized and the biceps no longer stabilize in the shoulder when it's fully straightened, and then the rotator cuff has to come in. So anyway, lots of reasons why I don't straighten the arm, but the main one you just need to know is that it takes the tension off that brachii, and I don't want to take the tension off, especially with a constant tension type movement. movement like cable curls. So yeah, I really enjoy this movement. I don't think there's really a wrong way to do it. I mean, you could step out and have the elbows more in front of you and then pull more to your chin, or you could step closer to the rack and then do it more straight up and down. And I do like it because it does change the stress level in the bicep. It changes where that stress is going to be felt the majority of the time, depending on how close you're standing to the rack. I did about 6 sets of the cable curls. Not all the shots actually showed up in focus, so that's kind of the challenge of self-filming sometimes in the gym. But I am working on that. I'm working on getting a guy at some point to do some more dynamic shots in the gym, so stay tuned for that as well. But right now, I'm going to be doing some incline curls. And the great part about doing incline curls after you get a pump is, wait for it, you probably know the answer to this question. It's the pump and stretch principle. I made a video about it, so check that out. Just check it out. Just look up in that little magnifying glass down below called the pump and stretch principle. And basically, once you get a pump and then you do a stretching exercise after, it's really good for stretching out that muscle fascia, increasing blood flow, and also really stressing out that muscle, right? So you definitely get some really good results from it. That's why I love the incline curl, because it does stretch that long head of the biceps. So it gives you some pretty nice looking biceps. So actually, I feel like a superhero right now. It's almost like I'm no longer a mind muscle connection guy. Okay, I'm going to change my superhero name. I was mind muscle connection guy, mind muscle connection man, actually, to be more specific. But now I'm going to be called, what is it? Mr. Stretch, I don't know, rubber, some guy like Plastic Man or something like that, because I just like totally feel like my arms are turned to rubber. So yeah, okay, there you go. I'm a different superhero now. I'm like Plastic Man. You know, I don't know if you guys remember that Saturday morning cartoon. I think his name was Plastic Man, and he could stretch all over the place and stuff. He was kind of like a Fantastic Four type ripoff of Reed Richards. And yeah, that's what my arms feel like, just to give you an idea. So as you can see, I just annihilated my arms for about 5 sets of incline curls, just struggling right into the total failure on those. And I got a great pump, but the thing is, this is why I don't pump my arms up before I pose, right? Because when you pose and you have an arm pump, it just kind of turns them into big kind of blobs of blood, you know? So I find getting a chest pump's the best thing, but I don't need to pump anything else up before I walk onto stage. So as you can see, everything's coming along just fine. Just eating protein and low glycemic carbs regularly throughout the day. So I just finished a pretty good chest and back workout and a little bit of biceps there. So I really like the cables because I can keep the tension on the bicep all the way up and all the way down. And because, like I said, I do have a looser shoulder, sometimes the tension being able to go all the way through really helps keep that tension on the bicep. So I notice it's a nice addition to my bicep training. Of course, the incline curl is still my favorite sort of exercise, but at the same time, when you come to the bottom, sometimes there's that little bit of movement in the shoulder and stuff like that that may take some of the tension off the bicep. So that's why I like the cables. I like to throw those cables in once in a while. And of course, once in a while I will throw some one-arm movements in there and stuff too, but I didn't want to do that today. I just didn't feel like it. So, but anyway, thanks a lot for tuning in. So if you want to support this channel, just become a Patreon supporter. And if you need to get a hold of me, just go to nationalbodybuilding.com and take care for now.